Hey there guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name's Craig from Slightly Unusual Magic TV, and welcome back. Now, first of all, hit subscribe, but more importantly, if you are a magician, if you are a performer, if you are a children's entertainer, this is the most important video that you are ever going to watch, or at least in the next few months. And the reason is, this video on today's Marketing for Magicians, I'm going to be talking to you about how you can ensure as a magician or a performer that you survive COVID-19, that you survive this pandemic. Normally I talk about little sales strategies and how to get more leads, and all of that is really, really important. But as a magician right now, as a freelance entertainer, there's certain things that you absolutely should be doing in order to make sure that your business survives COVID-19. And I'm going to outline what I've been doing ever since lockdown came about, what I'm continuing to do now, and how I'm going to make sure that my business survives this whole pandemic. And this is going to be applicable no matter what country you're in. There's certain things that you need to do. So here we go. Number one, the first thing that you need to do, right, is you need to make sure that you have a passion for magic. And let's be honest here, some people, they become professional magicians mainly because, and I've met people like this, I know people like this, they become professional magicians because they're pretty good at it, right? They're pretty good at it, they're a good performer, but it's a nice, easy way to make money. And it is, up until recently, it was a really easy way to make money. You know, there's always been a debate about how much you charge, how much you don't charge. But let's say you're a kids entertainer and you're doing 4 parties a week and you're charging £400 a week. Well, you're making £800. You know, you can make a lot of money as a children's entertainer, and you can make even more money as a magician without actually doing that much work, because it's actually really easy to get gigs. There's a lot of gigs out there. It's not very, very difficult to go out and get gigs. So, you know, I know a lot of people that fall into magic because it's a nice, easy thing to do, and they can spend the week sitting around playing on the PlayStation or whatever, and then go out and do some gigs over the weekend. Then you've got people who are passionate about magic, and they live, breathe, and sleep magic. You have to be passionate about what you do. I've seen so many people post on Facebook recently going, I feel like I'm falling out of love with magic, or I feel like this is the end of the road for me as a magician. You know, I'm going to start doing something else. And that's fine. If somebody wants to make that decision, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you want to continue to be a magician and you want to continue to love what you do, well, you need to make sure that you still have that passion for it, because I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's going to be a rocky few weeks. It's going to be a rocky few months. There's going to be a lot of ups. There's going to be a lot of downs. It's going to be very emotional at times, and the people that survive through this and make it through the other side, they are going to be the people that desperately want to do this for a living. And the people that I'm seeing dropping out, that's absolutely fine, but maybe they didn't have the passion for magic. So first of all, make sure you're passionate about what you do. And if you feel your passion waning, but you still want to be a professional magician at the end of this pandemic, well, do something to make sure that passion is still there. One of the reasons that I started doing this YouTube channel and I started posting content for magicians on this YouTube channel is because I was wanting to make sure that, you know, I couldn't perform, it was lockdown, and I wanted to make sure that I had an outlet for my creativity, so I could share with like-minded people, you know, my love for magic. And planning these videos that I put up every single day, it really helps me. It gives me a buzz when I think, right, what am I going to talk about this Thursday, and so on and so forth. So number one, make sure you're passionate. Number two, there's nothing wrong with quitting. And if you want to quit and you want to get yourself another job, that's fine. And here's the thing, sometimes people have to. You know, if you rely solely on magic as your income, and your income's completely dried up, and you need to go and get yourself another job to tide yourself over or whatever, that's fine. But don't get into the quitting mentality, as in, I'm quitting, I'm done, I'm never coming back, because then you are gone for good. The best analogy I can use is a Rubik's Cube. You know, I know there's going to be a lot of magicians on here that know about Rubik's Cube magic. I do a lot of Rubik's Cube magic. But we all know, right, there's something like 47 quintillion combinations with a Rubik's Cube, which is ridiculous. I read somewhere that if you lay 47 quintillion Rubik's Cubes next to each other, it'll span the circumference of the Earth twice. You know, there's so many ridiculous combinations, but we all know that with a Rubik's Cube, God's number is 20. Look it up. If you don't do Rubik's Cube magic, Google it. God's number, Rubik's Cube, it's 20. What that means is no matter how much you mix up a Rubik's Cube, it is only ever a maximum of 20 moves away from being solved. So even though there's all these different combinations, it's only ever 20 moves away from being solved. And it's about knowing the moves. And, the more algorithms you know, the faster you can solve it. Well, it's the same with running a business and weathering a storm like this. You have to believe, you're closer to success than you think. So if you have a Rubik's Cube and you look at it and like, my God, I'm never going to solve this. You are closer to solving it than you think, as long as A, you know the moves and you have a plan, and B, you believe that you can solve it. If you don't know how to solve a Rubik's Cube and you don't know the algorithms, you're never going to solve it. You can twist it all day and you're going to be stuffed. But if you know how to solve it and you look at it and you go, well, this is really mixed up, but I know I can solve it, and you're closer to success than you think. That's the thing. I know when my son first started learning how to do the Rubik's Cube and he was like just being able to solve it, I remember he solved it in like a minute, and he was really surprised with himself. You're closer to success than you think, as long as you have blind faith. And that's really important. You have to have blind faith. You have to believe. You have to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will believe in you either. You have to believe in yourself. So that's number 2. Now, let's go on to some really important stuff, okay? That's kind of more mindset, which is fine. But, I'm sure you've seen a whole bunch of mindset videos. Let's talk about some stuff that you can actually do. So, number 3. Reduce expenses as much as you can. You want to make sure that the expenses that you have in your business, and first of all, I want you to understand that you're running a business. If you are a self-employed magician, you are still running a business. The business is you. I'm going to be referring to this as your magic business, okay? And that's really important that you understand the difference. It is your business. So number 3, within your business, reduce expenses as much as you can. Write down all of your expenses, all of the stuff that you spend money on, and then ask yourself, well, can I get rid of that? Can I get rid of that? Can I get rid of that? You want to reduce expenses down as much as possible, because what you want to do is you want to cash is king. It's all about cash flow, right? And we'll talk about cash flow a little bit later on. But the way to make sure that your cash is flowing is to reduce your expenses right down. Do you need that app on that phone? Do you need this? Do you need that? I remember just a few weeks ago, I was going through my phone on the recurring subscriptions thing on Apple, and I have like £70 a month in recurring subscriptions with apps that I didn't even use, and I'd signed up to a subscription and I'd forgotten. It's little stuff like that that will make a big difference. So you want to reduce your expenses right down. Okay, now, number 4, and this is really, really important, be visible. Be everywhere. A lot of the time when you get into a situation like you are now, it's very, very easy to just shrink within yourself and just try and ride it out. What you need to do as a performer, as a magician, is you need to be absolutely everywhere. You need to be visible. Now, you guys, some of you know me, some of you don't. I do a few different things, but I run slightly unusual, obviously. I'm a magician, but I also run another company, a children's entertainment company. And we do we did about 8,000 parties a year. Obviously, 22nd of March, the entire country got locked down, right? And we couldn't perform, and we pivoted, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But one thing that we tried to do is we tried to be as visible as we could. So we set this thing up called NSK TV, which was where all of our entertainers were doing videos and putting them up on our YouTube channel, and we were emailing out all of our clients saying, hey, I'm really sorry you're stuck at home with your kids. Here's some videos. Have a look at this. This is a bedtime story. This is this. This is that. This is the other. And we were putting videos on all of the time. And the amount of messages we were getting from people saying, oh, thanks very much for doing this. It makes the world of difference. And we started doing magic lives. We were doing magic lives at 1 o'clock every single day with magic shows and games for kids and things like that. The whole point was being visible. Now, what I saw from magicians and children's entertainers when lockdown happened initially in March, a lot of entertainers, they started doing something similar to that. They were putting more stuff on YouTube. They were putting more stuff on Facebook, and they were doing little tutorials like, hey, this is how to do this rubber band trick, and this is how to do this, and this is how to do that. But you know what happened? After about a week or 2 weeks, it stopped and it disappeared, and they stopped doing it. And all the momentum, and we'll talk about momentum later on, but all the momentum that they actually created by doing those videos, it all went away. So the key word here, in order to be visible, the key word is consistency. Write it down. Consistency. You have to be consistent. If you plan on doing something, you have to do it. It's a little bit like YouTube, right? You know, about 3 months ago, I made the decision to try and make something of this YouTube channel. And you know, had very few subscribers. We had a very small viewing rate. And now, you know, I think as I'm shooting this video, we've got over 2,000 subscribers. We've added 1,000 subscribers in a month, which is fantastic. And that's really, really great. But it's because I'm consistent. You guys know that on a Monday, it's a marketing video. You know, on Wednesday, I'm doing a review show with Ryland. You know, on Friday, I'm doing a rant. You know, on Thursday, I'm doing a magic stuff. I've made it very, very clear what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. Consistency is key, okay? So it's about content, putting out content that people want to watch, and it's about being consistent. So, but the underlying point here is that you need to be visible. You need people to see that you're still alive, so that when things get back to normal, and again, we're back to mindset right now, you have to believe that eventually things will get back to normal, then, you know, you're in a position where everybody knows who you are and what you do, okay? So the next thing is pivoting. Pivoting is very, very important. So what I mean by that is, okay, so what do you do? If you cannot physically go out and perform at live parties, what can you do to create an income? What is it that you can do? Because, you know, you could just sit on your ass and do nothing and just practice your double lift. Or, you know, if you're actually running a business, what else can you do? Because there's always options. So with my kids' entertainment company, we started doing online parties, which were, you know, they started off slow and then they got more popular and more popular and more popular. And I think in the heyday, in the height of it, I think we were doing about 50 virtual parties a week, or maybe 50 or 60 virtual parties a week, which is great. Now, I know that there's entertainers out there, there's magicians and there's kids entertainers, and they were like, I don't want to do virtual parties, I don't like performing to a screen, and that's fine. But that's the difference between running a business and not running a business. You know, one of my business coaches is a lady called Claire McTerran. And she said to me a few years ago, and it's so true, she said, if running a business was easy, everybody would be doing it. It's not. Let's be honest. Running a business isn't easy. You know, it's a stressful thing. It's stressful running a business. The buck stops with you. And if you are running a business, the most important thing is to continue to generate cash flow, right? And sometimes that means doing something that you might not necessarily like. And in the case of this, it was doing virtual parties. Now, when I first started doing virtual parties and virtual entertainment, I hated it. But, you know, as it went on, I actually really enjoyed it. There were so many positives of doing a virtual party. I didn't have to leave the house. I had a little studio set up at the bottom of my garden. I could literally just go down there, open up my laptop. I'm good to go. I had literally all my tricks around me that I could grab. And I got really good at putting stuff together and putting routines together to engage with an audience. So, you know, it might not be something that you enjoy doing. It might not be something that you want to do. But if it generates cash flow and it makes more money come into your business, well, that's ultimately a good thing, right? So you understand that you need to pivot your business, and you have to, here's what you need to do. This needs to be an ongoing activity. And what I mean by that is, you know, at the, I can't remember when it was, but at the beginning of July, they started to allow the lockdown restrictions were eased, and, you know, people started to be able to perform in gardens and do garden parties. So we started doing garden parties, and we started, you know, talking about garden parties and promoting the fact that we do garden parties. And, you know, hey, we put on our website, hey, garden parties now available to book and stuff like that. And people started booking garden parties. And we were tracking all of the data. And that's another important point. You want to track all the data. And you could see over July, the virtual parties were going down, and the live entertainment, the garden parties, were going up, and that continued through July and through August. If we just sat there and continued to offer virtual parties, we probably would have got many less bookings. But it's because we're watching. You have to be proactive and not reactive. So you don't want to like react to a situation. You need to be proactive about it. You need to figure out, you need to almost be psychic. You need to be able to look ahead and go, right, where do we think things are going to be right now? And you need to plan for it, and you need to plan that into your marketing activities. So yeah, pivoting is really important. And then obviously in the UK, as of the 14th of September, I think it is, the government have announced that we effectively cannot do garden parties anymore because it is now illegal to do parties for, well, it's illegal to gather with more than 6 people. So, we can't do garden parties anymore. We just can't, which I know is a frustration for a lot of people in the UK. So we have started promoting virtual parties again. If you look at our Facebook banner, it says virtual parties on there. If you look at, all of the website, it says virtual parties. And since the new announcement has been made, we've been booking virtual parties left, right and centre. We've been booking way more virtual parties. I think we've booked 10 virtual parties in the last 2 days, and previously up to that we were getting like 1 or 2 here or there. So it's like we saw the announcements, we didn't wait, we immediately said, okay, this is what we can do, and now we're trying to think about what we can do next. Anyway, I've spent enough time on that. Pivot, do it ongoing, be proactive and not reactive. The next point is understand that this is the perfect opportunity to try and get as much press and PR as you can. You need to understand that right now, news reporters and newspapers and local newspapers and national newspapers, magazines, radio, all of that stuff, they are desperate for good news stories because they've got bad news stories in spades. Everywhere you look, it's doom and gloom. But, as much as people say, oh, the media are terrible and they only promote, doom and gloom stories, they want positive stories as well. So what you want to do is you want to learn how to create a press release, and you want to promote absolutely everything. I started sending press releases out. Now, although I've got a background in marketing, I am not a PR expert by any stretch of the imagination. Never have been, never will be. But I did a course online about how to craft a press release and how to then distribute a press release. Because again, reducing expenses. I couldn't afford to go and get someone to do it for me, so reducing expenses. I learned how to write a press release. I learned how to send a press release out. And I got myself into I think during lockdown, I was on the radio about 6 times, local radio and also a national radio show. And we had multiple things in the press. We even got into the National Health Executive magazine, which was fantastic, twice, which was really good for our SEO as well. So the important thing there is you want to talk about absolutely everything that you can. You want to talk about what's happening in your business. Find interesting stories and communicate it to the press. It's a free activity that you can do that won't cost you anything, that will generate goodwill and make you more visible, which was point 3. Okay, so that's really, really important. Use this opportunity to try and get as much press, free publicity as you can. Next point, really, really important, is think outside the box. All right, think outside the box. Okay, so you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. Another one of my mentors, a guy called Brad Burton, who's the UK's #1 motivational business speaker, he always turns around and says, what does this make possible? What does this make possible? Because it's very easy to look at the situation and go, well, that's it, we're stuffed, there's nothing we can do, it's over, game over. But what does this make possible? What does this make possible? So I'll give you an example, okay? So my background story, my mum and my dad was in the police, my mum was in the NHS, she was a sister in charge of a hospital, and I know how hard the NHS work. And so I can only imagine during lockdown how difficult it was for the NHS. And I remember speaking to my wife, Sarah, also my business partner, and saying, man, we should try and do something for the NHS if we could. We're doing all these live parties. And so I reached out on LinkedIn to some NHS people, and I said, is there anything we can do for like kids in hospitals or whatever? And I got to speak to somebody on LinkedIn who said, oh my gosh, this is such a great idea, because the problem is there's play specialists. I didn't know anything about this, but the hospitals have play specialists who, organise play for children around the UK. And they said the problem is there's kids in hospitals and having palliative care in the community that literally can't have any entertainment right now. They can't have people come in. They can't have guests come in and visitors come in. So they're all on their own, and a lot of them don't even understand. It's horrible for them. If there's something you could do, that would be great. So we started doing a few shows for the NHS, which was great. It was really, really good, but it wasn't generating any cash flow. So I said, well, there's got to be something we can do here. So I contacted all of our clients that were in industries that I know weren't affected, like energy and things like that, not in the events industry. And I said to them, look, this is what we want to do. Can you sponsor us? And we got a couple of sponsors. We got a few sponsors actually to sponsor us to go and actually do virtual parties for people in palliative care in the community. And it was great because our entertainers were getting work, we were getting cash flow coming in, but also it was a great PR exercise because then we shouted about that from the rooftops. And that was why the National Health Executive did an article on us, because of what we were doing for the NHS, for all the different place specialists. So what does this make possible? Yes, you're in a situation where it's illegal to perform for more than 6 people, which basically means that you can't perform for anybody at all. So what does this make possible? Virtual entertainment. What else? There's lots of different things out there. Look for ways that you can perform. So for example, we've linked up with a few big venues because venues are still open and they can still host events. And what people want more than anything else at the moment, with this new announcement that came in on the 14th of September saying people can't gather in groups of more than 6, the rule of 6 rule, people desperately want entertainment. They want to be in an environment that feels more social. So if that's the case, there's going to be a need for entertainment. And if you can find a venue that's COVID secure, that's prepared to put on some sort of show, and they can do it in a safe and legal way, you can team up with them and you can be the entertainer. We've done that with 2 venues so far. In fact, I've booked a series of shows for myself personally all through December. I'm having my own theatre set up and I'm doing a family show Friday and Saturday night all through December. All because I reached out to a hotel. And they've already started advertising and it's all cool. And that's because I was thinking, okay, what does this make possible? Write it in bold Sharpie and stick it up on your wall. What does this make possible? Okay, think outside the box. Vitally important. Okay. The next thing is, and this is another thing that Brad Burton told me. Brad said to me, you have to understand that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And what I mean by that, and I'll tell you the analogy that he told me, he said, Craig, you're like a knockout artist in a boxing match. I'm like, well, what are you talking about, Brad? And he said, well, you're the sort of person in business that you go in, fist flying, and you try to go for a knockout in round 1. And I am. When it comes to business, a lot of the time, that's exactly what I am. I look to go in, go big, go hard, get it done, job done. He said, you have to understand that there's no way you're going to be able to do this. You're going to have to go the distance. This is a marathon. You're going to have to go 10 rounds. You're going to have to, it's all about stamina. Because if you try to go 100 miles an hour, I'm going to do this, 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 you're going to burn yourself out. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, you could have a stroke, you could have anxiety, you could make yourself ill. It's all about understanding that you have to understand that this is a marathon and it's not going to be over in a week. It's not going to be over in 2 weeks. It's not going to be over even in a month. So you have to understand that you have to pace yourself, and that's really, really important. You can only go at 100 miles an hour so much. And on that point, the next point I want to tell you about is, and this comes from another one of my I have a lot of business coaches. This comes from another one of my business coaches, a guy called Crosley, who is the mindset technician. And he turned around to me and he said, expect the best, but prepare for the worst. And what it means by that is you have to have a positive outlook on things. If you're just negative all of the time and it's doom and gloom and it's like, oh my God, woe is me. I'm never going to be a magician and then I'm never going to perform again. My life's effectively over. I'm going to have to be a delivery driver for Tesco. If that's your outlook on life, that's what will happen. Because, it's kind of like whatever you envisage will come true. So if you're all doom and gloom, it's effectively over, right? So you have to have a positive outcome and a positive outlook. And I do. I believe that next year, at some point, this will be over and I will have my best year in business yet. I will have my best year in business yet, period. And why do I think that? I think that because because I've got loads of people that have postponed to next year, and I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Things are going to be good, right? So, that's my belief. However, I plan for the worst. I have contingency plans after contingency plans after contingency plans after contingency plans. I have looked at every possible scenario that I can think of, and I've worked out what I will do in that scenario. And let me explain why by using an analogy of something that magicians do. As a magician, when we create a trick or we perform a trick or we learn a trick, when we're learning it, a lot of the time, we will think of outs, won't we? We will sit there, we've all done it. We've took a deck of cards and we've thought of outs. What happens if I can't control that card? What happens if I accidentally lose that card? What do I do? Okay, well, I could cull it and I could palm it off and produce it from my pocket, or I could do this, or I could do this. We think of outs, right? Well, you need to effectively do the same thing in your business. The time that you spend thinking about outs in your magic, you need to think about your business. Because here's the thing, when people are stressed, they never make good decisions. You can't make a good decision when you're stressed, because when you're stressed and everything's on top of you, it's like, I've never made a good decision when I'm stressed. So the way to get around that is to think about what could possibly happen in your business, what could possibly happen in the next month, in the next 2 months, in the next 3 months. And then what you need to do is you need to come up with a plan. So if that happens, rather than stressing, making yourself ill and making a bad decision, you can go, well, that's not a problem because I've already planned for this. This is what I'm going to do. So that's really important. Have an out in your business. The other thing is understand your figures. In a future video, I'm going to be talking about tracking everything. You need to track statistics. You need to track data, but you need to understand where your cash flow is. You need to understand where your money is. You need to understand, okay, how much money do I have in the bank? How long can I sustain my business without getting bookings? Now then you need to say, okay, let's say I did virtual parties. How much can I charge for a virtual party? How many virtual parties would I need to make sure my business ticks over? Yeah. And then you kind of go, well, okay, well, what else can I do to generate income? What else can I do to generate income? And you need to know all of these figures. You don't want to be blindly just going forward and like not knowing where you are and what you do until ultimately one day you go to buy something in the shop and the card's declined and you go, well, I didn't know that was going to happen. You need to be aware of this. You as a business owner, you need to be aware of where you are at all times. Vitally, vitally, vitally important that you know where you are at all times. And you know what? Constantly be looking for more ways to create income. Constantly be looking for more ways to create income. So, again, I go back to this YouTube channel. I started doing this YouTube channel for fun, to keep my magic, my passion for magic alive. I used it to, my son Rylan loves magic. He was getting frustrated. He didn't have anyone to perform to. And I said, well, here's an idea. I used to do something called the Wizard Product Review. It was really good fun. How about you and I do our own review show? And we'll look at products. And, it's been absolutely wonderful for me and him because we spend all the time learning these tricks. Oh, this sucks. And we have so many arguments about whether it's good or bad. And then we get to film the review show and it's the highlight of our week. And when you guys leave comments on that show, it means the world to him. And that's why this channel was put together, because I just wanted something to do, like I said, to express my creativity, have fun creating content for you guys, and also be able to do it with my son. But now, this channel is in a position where if I wanted to, I could monetize it. Now, I haven't done so, but I might do. I might monetize the channel. I've never considered YouTube as an avenue or a way to create income. But that maybe that's something I can do. I don't know. Look for opportunities around you at all times. Yeah, that's really, really important. Look for opportunities around you. I've not released a trick in about 5 years. I think the last thing I released was at the table lecture, my At the Table lecture. Well, I've had a couple of magic companies contact me recently and say, hey, would you like to release some magic with us? And you know what? Maybe I will. If enough people would like to see more of my material, and it seems like they do, maybe I'll do that as well. It's whatever you can do. Look for different ways. Again, all of these points come together. You want to create cash flow. You want to understand your finances. You want to know where you are. You want to pivot and look for ways of generating money. Now, ultimately, what we all want to be doing is getting back to work and going out and performing and doing what we do best, and going out to live audiences and smashing it and being the man and everything else that magicians do. But in order to get there, you have to ride the storm. Okay? One final point is don't beat yourself up. It is very, very easy to beat yourself up and kind of say to yourself, well, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. And I'm terrible at that. I'm terrible at that. I turn around to my wife all the time and I go, Sarah, I should have filmed this video for YouTube. I haven't filmed it. It's got to go up tomorrow. I've only done this sales call. I've only done this today. I've done this. I've run out of time. What am I going to do? Don't beat yourself up. You can only do what you can do. You're only one person. You have to just celebrate your successes. And I think that's really, really important. At times like this, it's very, very easy to be negative on yourself and look at all of the things that you haven't done. But then think about all of the things that you have done. Well, I've managed to do this. I've managed to do that. I've managed to do the other. This has happened. There's a lady that I'm a big fan of. Her name is Jo Howarth, and she calls herself the happiness coach. And she's amazing. She's one of the most positive people I know. But she does this thing called the Daily Glads. And what they are is she forces herself every single night to write down 5 things that she's glad about every single day. 5 things that have made her happy and glad. 5 things. And she won't stop until she's got that list of 5 things, and she writes them down and she says them out loud. She even posts them on Facebook every single day. And I said to her, when I first met her, I said, 5 things? Wow. Jo, sometimes I've had days where I can't even think of 3 things. I've had a terrible day and I can't think of 3 things. And she told me a story about one of her clients, and she said, you know what? Someone came to me and they said to me, I've only done 2 things. And she said, well, put 3 more down. And he said, I can't think of anything. I made a nice cup of coffee this morning. She went, that's amazing. That's a great thing to put down on your list of daily glads, because you did it. You got the coffee, you made the coffee, and I bet that coffee made you feel good. It doesn't have to be big things. It doesn't have to be, I landed this important client, I booked this gig and I smashed this audience, I've done this, I've done that. It can be the little things, but understand that you have to celebrate your successes. And then the final point, the very, very final point, I alluded to this earlier on, and I talked about Rylan, my son, and how we love doing magic together. And it goes back to what does this make possible, but not from a business point of view, but from a personal point of view. I promise you that there's going to be people in 5 years' time that look back at 2020 fondly, for the simple reason that it forced us to spend more time with our family. I'm on the road every weekend up until March. I didn't see my kids anywhere near as much as I should. And you know what? Every weekend, I remember I had an actual gig a couple of weeks ago, and my son Ryan, he said, where are you going? I said, I'm off to do a gig. He said, why? He's just got so used to having me around. And the connection I've had with my son Ryan, my wife Sarah, and my daughter Thea, that relationship has just grown and blossomed, and it's just been amazing. And I've seen on Facebook a lot of magicians that have said, hey, I don't know if I can go back and be a full-time magician, because I've had so much fun being at home and spending time with my family and, connecting to what ultimately is really important. And it's true. It's true. So you will look back at this time, 2020, you will look back at it fondly in many different ways. Obviously, we're all going to look back at it as the year that was a bit of a nightmare, but there's going to be things that you're going to look back at fondly and understand that it makes certain things possible from a personal point of view that you never, hey, I managed to binge watch the whole of Cobra Kai, season 1 and 2 in one night. Boom. That's what that made possible. By the way, if you haven't seen Cobra Kai, watch it. It's amazing. The point is, what does it make possible? Yeah? So I hope that helped. Ultimately, this whole video can be boiled down to one thing: positivity. You need to be positive, and you need to go out and make a positive difference. If you sit down and you do nothing, you will achieve nothing. But if you attack this scenario and you say, okay, I can't do this, I'm not going to blame the government, even if you believe the government's to blame. I'm not going to blame COVID-19, even if you believe COVID-19 is to blame. Because if you spend all of this time, and I see magicians posting on Facebook all of the time, this is terrible, the governments are terrible, this is terrible, that's terrible, this is awful, that's awful. And I'm thinking, dude, if you took half of the time that you spent on Facebook bitching, and instead you put that into your business, you'd probably figure out a way to make more money right now and ride the storm. And that's what it's all about, right? Now, I'm here to support anybody. If you've got any specific questions about this, I can do a follow-up video anytime you want it, no problem. Please ask the questions down below. I answer every single comment I get. And once again, guys, thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video, it helps the algorithm. And yeah, you know what? We got, what day is it today? Monday. So Wednesday, we've got the review show with me and Rye. Thursday, we've got a magic stuff. Friday, we've got a magic rant. They're always popular. Saturday, I've got an honest trailer. And then Sunday, I've got a Q&A. And then there's videos of me performing going up every single day at 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be back again later tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow. My name's Craig from Slightly Unusual and Magic TV.